It's about 3:01 here. We're going to get started. We're so glad that you all took the time to join us today. We have a very special presentation by Ms. Gwen Massey. She's going to be speaking about purpose and how it relates to your well-being. So without further ado, Ms. Gwen Massey, everybody.
Yes, good afternoon, everyone. Again, my name is Gwen Massey. I'm a registered nurse, and I've been a nurse for over 40 years. I've also given topics here and spoken here at the summit over the last few years several times, and was happy to get an invitation to come and do this particular talk today. The title again is How Having a Purpose Relates to Our Health and Well-Being. So I wanted to talk about this having a purpose, because I think it's very important to us always to know what our purpose is, and especially during these times that we kind of need to know what we're doing. Who am I? What am I doing? Why am I doing it? What's important to do today? And how that relates to having this sense of purpose in our lives, how does that relate to health, is what we want to talk about today. So first of all, I'd like to kind of just give a definition of purpose. And the noun definition, as a noun, purpose means the reason for something to exist. So the reason for something to exist. So in essence, why do we exist? You know, why are we here? What are we supposed to be doing? And the definition of purpose as a verb is to set an aim, a goal, or have an intention for oneself. So having aims, goals, and intentions for ourselves. So what does that all mean? So as a registered nurse for many years, through my experience as a nurse and through my studies and through my reading and my experience as an individual living my own life, it seems that human beings need a reason to exist. To feel fulfilled, we need to feel needed. We need to feel productive. We need to feel worthwhile and excited, and to feel happy, and to feel connected with others, to feel joyful, to be satisfied, have a feeling and sense of satisfaction. And we need to do things and feel alive, and to have hope. It's really important. And we can just go on and on with the kinds of feelings and things that what it means to be a human being. So what happens if we're not having all these wonderful feelings of being productive and satisfied and worthwhile, and have we lost our sense of hope? What happens to us, and what happens to our minds and our bodies? And it seems that some of the things that happens for us is that we feel depressed, we feel sad, we feel dissatisfied, we're bored, we feel empty, like something is missing. We even feel frightened sometimes, or helpless. Sometimes we feel worthless. And that entails us having low energy. We have a sense of hopelessness. We're unhappy. And again, we could go on and on about the kinds of feelings and the things that come up for us when we don't feel that we have this sense of purpose in life. So these negative feelings that we've just talked about, how do they affect your body? How does it affect your health and well-being? And so mentally, emotionally, again, we feel depressed. And if we feel depressed, oftentimes our health is affected because we don't eat well, or we eat it hardly at all. We're not exercising, we're not moving about, we're not getting adequate nutrition. And when all those things start to happen to us, what happens? We begin to be forgetful. We lose our sense of focus, and we increase our stress. We're more stressful. And one of the things health-wise that stress does to us is when we're in a state of stress, we produce a hormone called cortisol. And when we produce this hormone, normally in the sense of what they call fight or flight, especially when humanity first started out, the caveman or whatever, and they feel like, scientific studies feel like this sense of fight and flight was there for human beings, so that when the dinosaur approached them, they got frightened. And when they got frightened, their body produced cortisol. And when the cortisol kicked in, it caused them to start to think, what should I do? Should I run or should I stay? And so they had to make a decision quickly. They made the decision, and hopefully in most cases, the decision was to run and save themselves. Once they relaxed and they felt safe, then that hormone cortisol went away. But what happens to us today, and that kind of thing still happens to us. If we're in a state of fright, then that cortisol kicks in. We get over that sense of fright and stress, and then the cortisol gets out of our system and we move on. But if it stays like right now, if I'm in a state of distress for weeks and months, then that cortisol is rolling around in my body all the time. And it actually affects our bodies negatively when it stays there all the time. So that means that it will increase, it will decrease our immune system. So if our immune system becomes compromised, so illnesses, diseases, we start to catch those. I don't know about you guys, but for myself, sometimes I've known when I pushed myself when I was working as a nurse, taking care of a family, and doing all the things I was doing, I would get myself in such a state of not getting enough rest, and also stressing over what I was doing and trying to accomplish all these things. And then all of a sudden, before I knew it, I had a cold. And I was down for several days or a week, and my body forced me to get the rest that it needed. So this cortisol, this sense of stress, this sense of depression, it causes negative things going on in our body, and it causes us oftentimes to get physically sick. And when we become physically sick, then that aggravates the fact that we are feeling depressed. And then also when we're depressed and we're going through sadness, and then we don't feel like we have this sense of purpose, and we're not productive, it affects us spiritually. We are spiritual beings, and whether we believe in a God or not, we really are spiritual beings. But those of us who do, we realize sometimes our relationship with God is compromised because we feel so bad. Sometimes we feel like we're abandoned by God, and because I'm just feeling so bad physically, mentally, or whatever, that I don't have that connection with God as well as I don't have it with my friends. And another point is that this goes on with us all the time, but right now, what we're going through with the COVID-19 and the stress of other things going on in our society, then these things are even more important to find your sense of purpose. And well, I wanted to share a little bit about having a sense of purpose and how vital it is, because my grandmother lived with me and my husband for about 12 years. Actually, she was living with me, and then my husband and I got married, and we combined his mom and my grandmother. So we had 3 generations in our home. And so my mother-in-law was still able, she was in her 70s, and she was able to still cook and clean and iron and do things around the house. But my grandmother was able to walk about and do some things for her, many things for herself. But she was at that point that she just didn't have the energy to cook and clean and do things like that. So she would get jealous of my mother-in-law. And so one story is that my mother-in-law asked me if she could iron my uniforms for me. So of course I said, yes, definitely. And so one day I came home, and my mother-in-law told me that my grandmother had gotten upset with her. And I said, well, what did she do? What happened? And she said, I was ironing your uniforms. And she said, Granny said, what are you doing? And my mother said, I'm ironing Gwen's uniforms. And she said, why are you ironing her uniforms? And this is the tone of voice she had. Why are you ironing Gwen's uniforms? And she said, well, just because I want to. And she said, you don't need to do that. You don't need to iron her uniforms. Just put them over there. Put them over there. She can iron those uniforms herself. And I was like, no, she didn't. But she did. But she was feeling that she didn't have the same sense of worth because my grandmother was a caregiver. She took care of all of her children, 4 children. She raised them. She raised 5 grandchildren, and she worked as a maid, and she raised 6 kids for the family she worked for. So she'd always been service oriented, and to not have the ability to do the things she used to do really did bother her. So that having a sense of purpose is very vital and important for all of us. So what can we do to find that sense of purpose if we don't have it? And if we do have a sense of purpose, those of us who do, how do we maintain that sense of purpose? And so that we can find those values that we talked about of being productive, feeling worthwhile, being excited about life, and having a sense of hope. How do we do that? And one of the things that is more difficult, again, for us to do that in COVID-19 era, but it is possible. And so what I wanted to do is try to encourage each and every one of us to find ways to do it. Some of the ways, and one of the biggest ways I feel like, is offering service to others. I'm a very service-oriented person, and I know a lot of us are. And it's very important for us to be able to serve others. And even when we are limited in our physical abilities and our mental abilities, sometimes there are always little ways to be able to serve other people. And even as a nurse, I realized that sometimes people don't realize just being courteous to their caregivers is a way of offering service. Because I've often worked with elder clients who were always very ugly and, you know, didn't treat the staff and the people that were even family members well. And oftentimes they do that too because they are dependent and they are no longer able, and so they're angry. So I encourage people, no matter where you are in your abilities to move about or whatever, to find ways to serve other people. And it could be just a simple smile when someone comes to do something for you. Other things we need to do is that maintain our social contacts. Even when we don't have COVID, we often don't maintain those social contacts with family and friends. So I wanted to suggest that, you know, even in today's time with COVID, how about looking at doing some of the old tech, which is like sending a card to someone and saying, you know, when we were kids and we did XYZ, you remember that? Contacting someone you haven't contacted for a long time, whether it's family or friends, send a letter or a card, you know, put the post office to work. And of course, those of us who are a bit tech savvy, then use some of the tech mediums to contact people and be in touch. Whenever possible, of course, during COVID, try to find those times that we can face-to-face our friends and families. And be creative, which a lot of people are being very creative during this time. And so be creative about that. We also want to continue our exercise. If we were not exercising, we want to start exercising, because this is a part of your purpose, is to keep your body healthy, is by exercising. And we won't go into all the benefits of exercise, but exercise is very important. Another thing is we need to challenge our minds, you know, do things that are different. We need to read books, maybe read something that I normally don't read. Maybe I'm a person who reads romance novels all the time. And science tells us, but, you know, switch it up. Maybe read a history book, something else other than your normal read, and learn a new language. Even they say that even if you don't learn the language really well, the act of attempting to learn a new language, attempting to learn to ballroom dance or do puzzles will help. Listening to music, taking walks, meditating if you haven't meditated, having specific time for those things. These are some things that we can do to have a sense of purpose and keep ourselves living in this world with joy and happiness. And so we want to approach our lives with clear intentions. Remember, part of the definition as a verb for purpose was to have intentions for oneself. That's a purpose. So we want to have strive to have clear intentions in your life, such as, you know, when we're coming out of high school and we're like, okay, my intention is to get a job and provide for myself that way. My intention is to go to college and so forth and so on. And we're making these goals, setting these goals and making attempts at figuring out how to live our lives. Well, I just want you guys to know that we are actually still on that journey that we started at age of 16, 17, or 18. We're still on the journey, and there are things to do, things to learn, and ways to be that may be different from what we've known in the past. So as kind of a recap, I wanted to share a few more things with you about some things we can be doing. So I want to read a few of these to you. And then I will probably be closing my talk. And if there's anyone that's on here that would like to ask some questions, then we can do that. So one of the things you can do is drink plenty of water. You should eat breakfast like a king, lunch like a prince, and you should eat dinner like a beggar. So that tells you about the sizes of those meals. You should eat more foods that grow out of the ground itself and off of trees, and eat less food that's processed. You should attempt to live with energy, enthusiasm, and empathy for others. You should make time to pray. Play more games, read more books. Sit in silence for at least 10 minutes a day. Just you and God. Sleep for 7 hours a day. Now that one's very difficult for me. I don't know about you guys, but I strive for it. I also strive to take naps now that I didn't used to. I'm not very successful at taking naps, but I strive for that. Take a 10 to 30-minute walk. It says daily on my sheet, but as often as you can, 3 or 4 times a week. And when you're walking, walk with a smile on your face. Don't compare yourself and your life to others. You know, we know that we have friends who have done fabulous things in life, but maybe we haven't done such fabulous things, but our lives are just as important as those lives. And don't have negative thoughts about things that you can't control. So if there's something you can't control, then we need to be able to strive again to let go of those things and work on those things that we can control. It says don't overdo anything. So when we make attempts at doing things, try not to overdo. Also, don't take yourself too seriously, you know, because nobody else does. Don't waste your precious energy on gossip. Dream more while you are awake. And envy is a waste of your precious, precious time. Forget issues of the past, so let go. Just, you know, especially those of us at our age, over our 40. Let go of the past. And don't remind your partners or friends or family of mistakes that they made in the past. It will ruin your present happiness if you do. Life is too short to waste time hating anyone. So don't hate others. Make peace with your past so it won't spoil your present. No one is in charge of your happiness except you. Realize that life is a school. Life is a school. and you are here to learn. Problems are simply part, okay, problems that we incur are simply part of the curriculum that appear and fade away, like algebra class. How many of us remember algebra, the classes that we took, those of us who were silly enough to take them? Smile and laugh more. You don't have to win every argument. Agree to disagree. Call your family and friends as often as you can. Each day, give something good to others. And even though in this time, giving something good to others can be as simple as a smile, guys, as you walk down the street. Giving someone a call, texting someone and saying, I'm happy, I know you, I love you. So you can give someone a smile every day. Forgive everyone for everything. So forgive everyone for everything. Spend time with people under the age of 40 for us. Try to make at least 3 people smile a day. And also, guys, remember, what other people think of you is none of your business. Always strive to do the right thing. And again, this one is very difficult for me. Get rid of anything that isn't useful, beautiful, or joyful. So I'm striving to do that, but I am far behind on that one. I don't know about you guys. And take care of yourself. And so remember that God heals everything. So patience is required during these times. So that's basically the end of my talk. And I just hope, and my mission for today was to give you some encouragement to live your life fullest each and every day. And thank you for those of you who are listening.